expresses a kind of futility of heroism, a kind of looking to our leisure icons to protect us in a dangerous world. The piece that sort of led to a whole new phase of my work was called Michael Jordan Saved the World. And that piece, it was sort of like a saga of mine in terms of the time spent and how long it took. The installation incorporates 23 sculptures about 1/3 scale of Michael Jordan attempting to catch 24 bombs, everything suspended by a kite string. The sort of sinister math of it, the 23 Jordans and 24 bombs. And when I made it at the time, you know, people were like 23 and 24, of course, and this is what I meant, like, wow, like, that's pretty grim. But then my response was always, but it's Michael Jordan, so, you know, anything can happen, anything is possible. Each Jordan has a pair of Air Jordans versions 1 through 7. I was very nostalgic for that design of shoe, but also sort of very interested in what it meant that like so many kids growing up in my hometown and in sort of everybody's hometown was wearing these shoes that were sort of branded with this figure, and that we filled this sports figure with all these meanings. I had 6 or 7 different models. These are silicone rubber with a plastic mother mold. Sabrina Lessard was the mold maker I worked with, whose studio was right next to mine at the time. And we sort of worked together making the 25 to 30 molds that it took to assemble the Jordans. And the pieces were then reconfigured again and again. So the kind of modularity of the mold actually is a really important part of my work. I've worked with Michael Jordan as well. The image of him in a suite of etchings called The Disasters of War, which are taken from Francisco Goya's famous etchings from around 1810, kind of protest etchings, very much, very enigmatic, very scathing criticism of the Peninsular War in Spain. Using those compositions, but taking out every figure and replacing these figures with only Michael Jordan again and again and again. Michael Jordan ends up hurting himself, killing himself, maiming himself, and saving himself. And so it's this kind of really strange arc of reactions. It's a kind of creation of an allegory, but the system of that allegory sort of fractures and changes. I actually grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and I hated Michael Jordan because I was a Cleveland Cavaliers fan. I grew up in a town where sports meant so much and was sort of like a kind of symbolic triumph or failure for everybody in the city. And so I hated Michael Jordan, but he sort of became this figure of my childhood, and when he retired, I became very sort of unexpectedly obsessed with him. When he came back for the 3rd time, it was really interesting to me how many people hated watching him play not quite as well as he had played in his prime. It was like an admission of our own mortality. If he loses his abilities, if he declines, that means we all decline. This kind of plastic figure, this paper figure, we see him in reproduction, sort of is falling apart under the weight of our expectations of what he should be or what he is. While I'm very much interested in sports, it's really kind of also, and maybe more so, an expansive view on leisure culture and popular mythologies and the creation of popular mythologies. I think we fill our icons with different meanings, and the meanings change as the years go by, as the minutes go by, as our thoughts change. You know, all these guys sort of have not one fixed symbolic meaning. I want to address how it's just a vessel that gets filled with different things at different times. For me, my relationship to Schwarzenegger was a kind of bodily one. As a kid, looking at this huge uber male figure and wanting to be like him, but in all my naivete. I had been actually working for a little while on this piece, this toddler figure in underoos, wearing He-Man underoos. He's lifting up this huge pile of rubble, like 11 foot tall, and it's sort of variable. It can grow and change. That's just this kind of continuation, and even a greater admittance of a kind of heroic entropy, where he's like Atlas, but it's sort of not clear if he's really going to be lifting this up for a long period of time, and what he's lifting is not the world, it's just it's kind of wreckage. I find sports to be a kind of cleaned up reenactment of the world outside. When the Browns play the Steelers, when the Eagles play the Giants, we're talking about this actual physical clashing of men, but within a restricted kind of rule-based system, installing a kind of wish for order and a wish for kind of a finite end to a conflict, a beginning, a middle, and an end, a narrative that isn't we don't know the end until it happens, but it has an end. There are similarities and there are distinct differences, and the differences are poetic. I moved here in 2002 after graduate school with my then girlfriend, now wife, Jackie Hovind, and she had gone to Tyler, and so I had sort of visited her here and felt like I really loved the energy in this place. Like there was something going on here. It was more approachable than New York. I wanted a sort of different place. I wanted to sort of get lost in a place where there was something going on, and I really felt like Philadelphia was that. To me, it was like a really good decision. So I got here, and I got a studio down in this basement, not this studio, but down the hall. And I just met this kind of group of people who ended up being a great support system, all very talented artists in their own right. And we sort of help each other with our projects as they're coming up. I feel very connected to the art scene of Philadelphia. I think that there's a lot of room for growth, and I think that things can definitely get even better here. So I am excited to sort of be a part of that energy.